Hello, I'm Simon Headley, and welcome to today's episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. Today, I'm excited to get to talk with and introduce you to the one and only Satyen Raja, and I apologize, his name is magical and rich, and he'll share how to say it properly during the show. When I first came across him, I felt like I'd found a kindred soul, and the more I get to know about him and what he shares, the more I'm curious and grateful. He's been deeply immersed in different worlds, from martial arts to philosophy, and for decades has been creating and sharing ideas and programs to help transform business and leaders and people's lives. And personally, I just resonate with this context of being a warrior sage. Without further ado, Satyen, welcome to the show.
It's so wonderful to be here, Simon. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing us some time today. You're a very busy guy. I know you're good at managing your life, but you're the things you're up to. And let's start with the first question, which is, people that may not know you, don't know what you're up to, especially the new stuff. Who is you? Who are you? And what do you do now?
Thanks for asking. My hands are in different roles. I'm an advisor, a guide, a mentor to various companies with CEOs and leaders. We're up to make a bigger difference on the planet in a positive way. So I act as a guide and a support system for them and their teams and their families so that they're able to roll out into their purposes and their missions, taking the path of least resistance and maximum impact.
I love that. And on top of that, you do courses and trainings as well, don't you? You have a lot of fingers in pies, but your focus, it sounds, then is leaders and companies bringing this wisdom into those environments. Is that correct?
Yes, I really feel that business, bigger business and all business, we're responsible for either creating utopia and beautiful experiences on this planet, or we're going to destroy it based on our mindset and where we are in consciousness, our state of being. And so our purpose here is to enlighten leaders for the greater good. So we as leaders, when we deal with our psycho-spiritual elements within ourselves and heal the areas that are filled with shadows around sex, power, and money, when we strengthen and fortify our true mission, our dharma, as they say in the East, what we're truly here to do, our legacy, and when we align ourselves to that, then really there's a magical road of life appears. We go from stagnation and stuckness and feeling apathy and no purpose to really being alive at the core of our being with purpose. So that's, I believe, the solution. Come back into alignment, create businesses and live our businesses and our lifestyles from that centered place of alignment, and then watch the magic.
That's exactly what we talk about, this aspect of pausing, stopping, and resetting. I like asking the question, like, have you done that? And then maybe go check out what he's up to get some help to go on that route, because it is a journey. And we talked a little bit at the start. If you look back on your life, what have been some of the biggest challenges, the biggest pause, stop, reset moments you've been yourself up till now?
Well, I could talk about fresh in these last couple of years. My business partner, Caroline Thompson, beautiful, amazing teammate for over 20 years. She passed away suddenly at the beginning of this year, and it was a type of aneurysm. And she was my business partner, dealing with all our management and organization of all our teams and organizations.
And I'm guessing a friend as well at that point, right? It wasn't just an employee. It's huge.
Oh, a friend, a sister. Yeah. And she was like an Alfred, Alfred and Batman is like that. It was much deeper than that. So anyways, after that tragic incident, myself, my team, we had to come together and realize, we had all these momentums, things in the fire that we were stoking and initiatives. And I said, you know what? Let's just put it all to rest. Let's take the time to mourn, to grieve, to really feel the depths of this loss and this experience. Because, in the warrior sage path, death is an initiation. It's considered a friend. It's considered an ally. That the coldness of death and the shock of death allows us to get in touch with what's real and start to discard and let go of what's not real. So that's what I've been doing over the last 6 months or so, is seeing, overviewing with my team, what truly now, in the space we're at now, projects worth still pursuing at a soul level, and what can we consciously, lovingly let go and say we no longer need to attend to because our whole being and way of life has shifted now. So I think it's a sacred moment to utilize these times, even though they're challenging, and to find the warrior sage philosophy is to find what is the goal in this? What is the evolutionary capacity in this? How can I evolve through this experience rather than collapse and be wrong?
I love it and I resonate with it. I love how clear you are in the communication of it, right? I'm a non-verbal communicator. You might go, you talk a lot, Simon, but no, I come, this is a experience thing, which is in Tai Chi. I love the feeling to that being in the flow. But trying to express it is really challenging. Well, I think we'll come into more of a journey if we go on. But a good place I think might be to explore is, of these three aspects of pausing, of stopping and resetting, which have you found hardest and why do you think that is?
For me, it's pausing. Energy of creation inside of me. I shared about but I'm also the founder and chairman of New Gaia. It was a startup that we started last year, if you will, the Tesla of homes and buildings. total regenerative designs.
Beautiful statement. The Tesla of new homes. Sorry, I'm interrupting. The Tesla of new. I love that. And this America, I'm already hooked. Going, I want one. This is like it's
Exactly. And, we have such forwarding action with our transportation moving towards green and so propelled by Elon Musk and his cars. And now all the other major manufacturers are hopping on that, which is excellent. It's moving everything forward. Of course, there's challenges in that, as we all know, but we're moving forward. But we haven't done that with our homes and our buildings and our work environments. So we're creating and designing and supporting beautiful buildings that are supportive of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of our being and our relationships. So it's unlike anything on the planet.
and you can hear the driving side. So back to the pausing bit. So why do you find it hard to pause? Says I'm really teasing
Because
slightly.
I have a huge passion to see the world improve before I die, move forward a little bit further.
I get it.
I want to be able to have that, my life, that every bit of my bones and being has been sucked dry, so that when I'm given complete.
Yeah.
I've died without any regret, without anything left over in my being. And because I have that as a strong value, it is really challenging to pause. But I want to share something with you. Like yourself, you're in Tai Chi and Qigong and these Eastern arts. I've immersed myself in that too. And, in the heart of the yin and yang, which is an ancient Chinese symbol we all know, everyone know, the heart of yang, which is that forwarding energy, the center, it's yin, the softness, the let go, the surrender of being. And so I make sure every single day, every single week, I have periods of deep, I call it, this is something humorously in my CEO circle, we call extreme laziness. It's the spiritual practice of extreme letting go, like literally no radio, no TV, no books, no nothing. Just can you sit with yourself in the park, in nature, on a chair, whatever. And some wise man said years ago that all of man's problems come from the inability to sit in a room quietly for a few hours.
Indeed. And most of us go insane, right? If you put yourself in a room for 3 hours, it's like, it's horrible. It's a torture. But enlightened souls like, I'm really chilled out here. It's good. It's so hard in the modern world. There's always something, because you're doing stuff globally as well, right? America, international. There's always some time zone opening up. And
that's right.
Just sort of drilling down for your I was picturing Balu from the Jungle Book there, that sort of extreme laziness. How does your team support you in doing that? Or how do you?
That's a great question, Simon. The emphasis we have in this Western culture and success culture in business, the crush it culture. Think about even the sound of that. I crushed it. Let's crush it. There's a connotation that we made a killing.
Yeah, it's militaristic. It's war and fighting. Got to go kill, hustle, get it happening. Exactly. It's that.
No, massive action equals massive results. It's all true. And what we don't see is the dark side of that, the shadow. Massive action equals also massive breakdown, massive exhaustion, massive counterbalancing force coming along the line, because our emphasis has always been on doing rather than being. So what I do is, for example, I give my right-hand teammate, Jessica, who's an amazing teammate of mine, and she helps with all my scheduling and timing, and she looks at my whole schedule, and I say, look, I'm going to surrender the balance of my doing and being into your hands. And sometimes you're going to hear me kick and scream. Sometimes I go, no, I need to take those appointments. Let's do that now. And I'm going to give you authority from your feminine intuition to feel that if I'm even getting close to overstraining, even the beginning of that, of excess willpower, don't schedule. I need to meet someone a month from now instead of next week. Do it 2 months from now. They might want to meet me now. They might be a very hot prospective for some potential, but everything can wait. Everything can wait. And so I delegate it because I'm not great with it myself. I'm good, but I find someone, especially with the feminine wisdom, to say, Satyen, okay, you need to take this Friday off. So, for example, we book next week. I'm going camping Monday to Thursday on a family trip. And this is during the weekdays. And we make it during the weekdays because it breaks the pattern of, hey, don't work on the weekends, work on the weekdays. So I like to change up the patterns pragmatically so I'm not stuck in that Gregorian calendar, slave pattern.
No, I really do. I'm bubbling in today's conversation more than usual. There's two thoughts. I'm sure you know Jim Rohn's work, and he talked about Windows opportunity. So often in the West, it's like there's one shot to take. There are moments of taking all that action, being like, now's the time. But also things do come around again and again. And it is a very interesting, dynamic world sometimes. And also that idea of the calendar. One of my friends is sort of new to entrepreneur world, but she's very into but it's Tuesday. It feels like it's a Friday. I've not been in that world for 10 years. I had a great guy in London called Aaron. He had 4 corner shops, right? every day was Monday, every day was Sunday. I think like his philosophy was every day was Monday. But at the same time, he was quite true out about it. He built a world that worked for him. But there's so much of that, like people do what they do because the calendar says it's a Wednesday at 4 o'clock, as opposed to actually what's right for them, the system, the society. You've given that control away. Was that easy to do for you, or was that being sort of like you learned you had to?
No, not easy. Not easy to do for me, but necessary.
Yeah.
And then because things aren't easy doesn't mean that they shouldn't be done.
Now, often the best things are like that, right? It's the best things that you have to do and put off and put off.
Exactly. And so, for example, when I'm doing training, I have trainers. I have my really amazing trainer, Martin, who puts me through the ropes. I don't need him, but having a master there to guide my path, to be accountable for it, and to hold me to greater health, and to see the vision of how my health and vitality and strength can be, allows me to step up into his world and to meet the demand he has of me. It's very valuable to have these support structures as entrepreneurs in our life, to know when to hold them, when to fold them, when to have a stronger grip, and when to let the grip of control go.
Now, if you're listening already, you're getting why I'm happy we have this guest here today, and we are just getting started. So let's go back in time a little bit. I'm sure you've had this question before, you thought it through a little bit. If you could send back some of your insights and wisdom to your younger self, I appreciate you like who you are today, but like, what are the top 1 or 2 lessons you wish you could send back to the 10-year-old you?
Oh, it's to trust that you have value in this world, and to trust that who you are is an essentially needed on this planet. When I was young, I didn't really know. Didn't know what was I was here for. I didn't feel I fit into anything. I didn't fit into academia. I didn't fit into any circle. I always felt sort of, where do I belong?
The outsider.
I would share that you belong here.
And that's a really deep thing. I'm nodding away because I felt that people I've worked with that work with people like you, it's often a common thread, that self-worth, self-esteem, and not because of a Lamborghini or a Rolex, but real intrinsic value.
Yes.
Your 10-year-old self hearing that goes, yeah, thanks. What could somebody do sort of to help nurture that and explore that, do you think?
These are very beautiful questions. I appreciate that. Well, I think the first thing is to nurture your belonging. So it's to feel, when we were in Kung Fu as a youngster, as an apprentice instructor, we had to learn, we the instructors care. This was our motto. We the instructors are helping people help themselves. And I've just helping myself attain my own goals, dreams, aspirations. That's good.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But when I'm doing that, I'm helping others help themselves. There's a level of soul fulfillment that transcends personal fulfillment. It includes it, but it goes beyond. And it taps me into what I would say is the source of the universe, existence, the universe, the force, the divine. And it allows me to get in touch with, there's this grand mystery that I'm always ever connected to. I might not be conscious of it at times. At times I might totally forget and feel disconnected. But in truth, that I'm intrinsically not only always connected, but I am that, and I am of that. And it all cultivation of belonging, so you belong here. You might not know how you belong, but first start claiming, I would tell my 10-year-old, that you do belong. When you go into a restaurant or when you go into a social setting, don't imagine that, oh, how do I fit in, or do they like me or not? Just walk in with the air of, I belong here. Pragmatically, that served me in life when I'm working with presidents and CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm working with high-up political movers and shakers, and I'm sitting and I'm guiding them or facilitating a group process with some high-level team. One of the things I always walk in is I walk in with the sense of whoever they are, we're all the same. We're humans. Whether the credentials are this high, whether they got an 8-10-figure bank account, whether they're leading tens of thousands of people, whether they're leading one person and they're a family person at home. I belong. So I go with, but it's not that I belong forced from the ego. It's I belong because I just do. I belong in my body. I belong in my breath. And I belong in this room I'm in. And I believe that's one of the most powerful things that I've learned that I can share with anyone. When you walk into a prospective contract, when you walk into a bank, when you walk into a place where your influence is being noticed and has value, or there needs to be some arrangement or something that you're creating, walk in like you freaking belong there, in your attitude, in your being, in your posture, in your breath, and watch everything shift. Those who have that intrinsic feeling or cultivate that feeling of I belong here, they garner trust. We lean into those people. We listen to them with more perky ears. We're more open to their suggestions and insights, and we're more deeply influenced by the impact of their words, their transmission of being. because they're emanating from belonging.
I hadn't heard that before, and I like that a lot. I've been saying for a long time that I'm humanese, and we're in a very interesting time globally right now with borders and boundaries shifting and changing. And even online, you can be part of a different online tribe. And this whole thing of us going into a global society. So this idea of belonging is really interesting. At a time, actually, I'm in the UK. I know you've been to the UK before. The UK itself is disrupting what it means to belong to a town and a location, and especially internationally. I really like that. It's really nice. Not going to say lighter for a second, but we can sort of switch mode a little bit. I personally love reading books and movies, from Peaceful Warrior to Finding Nemo, right? I find the insights and gems, Kung Fu Panda especially. What books or movies have most helped you pause, stop, and reset? Or what do you turn to when you sort of need to recharge or reset?
Wow. Well, I love movies and I love books. I've got books falling off the shelves everywhere. Some of the shows that I'm watching right now that continuously inspire me are anything having to do with the Star Trek genre.
Lower Decks especially. Have you seen Lower Decks yet?
I haven't seen that, no.
Animation, Amazon Prime, not an advert for them, but if you love Star Trek, it's like designed not from like the bridge, but the guys underneath the bridge. That
Really?
I'm going to say, like, with a mutual friend, Adam, often I find he's written things I like, but I don't know who's involved, but it's Adam's sort of quality to it. Lower Deck, Star Trek fans, check it out. 2 seasons. It's very slow, but it's very, the Captain Picard stuff. Who's cleaning the warp engines? It's those other characters that make that world happen.
I'm actually watching Picard right now, and I've never seen that. And the nobility of his character, the integrity that Patrick Stewart represents as that character, Jean-Luc Picard, the captain, a true vulnerable man, a true warrior, a sage, a peacekeeper. All these are very inspiring to me.
This might be a make or break for our friendship. Babylon 5 back in the day. Did you ever watch Babylon 5?
I don't know that one. So
we can't talk anymore. I'm leaving. No, just joking. But no, I love that about science fiction. I love that you go there because it lets you have these models. And you say, Captain Picard.
I'll give you one more that I'm sure you and I, I know you as a Brit might appreciate. Doctor Who.
Oh yes. Which I won't go to which one's a whole other conversation there.
I love all Doctor Who's. I've just been a fan because I see them as the same Doctor.
Well, they are, right?
They are. They're the same Doctor, and I just hold that fantasy in my mind. And for me, the element of being able to travel in time and space, and to be able to thwart the destruction of the universe all in every episode in some way, or some alien or some negative force trying to destroy us, but to do it in the way of peace, not using weaponry, not using guns, not using lasers, but using his intelligence, his savvy, his wit, or hers now, because the latest Doctor, is now a woman, played by a woman, which is amazing, and to use intuition and knowledge and camaraderie, and to bring people together, to thwart the evils of the universe through peace and unity. That's I really love Doctor Who with that, with that impression.
So that sort of drunken master quality of like sort of Columbo-esque as well, right? Some days it's not like I have the plan. It's like this might work, and making up and surfing it. And I'm a big fan recently of circular time. This idea of the old wizard-wise enlightened souls planting things 1,000 years back. It's there when you just need it. And if you had that time machine that you can go forward and back and nudging yourself to give you the resources you need, it is really interesting. And I'm guessing, did you ever meet Wayne Dyer? I'm curious if you sort of knew him personally or not.
So my mentor was Stuart Weil.
I have come across Stuart Weil, the genius British guy who went, I'm going to leave my business and head off into the woods. And Stuart's one of those people I never knew about when he was around, but I've met so many people who are friends with Stuart. If you don't know Stuart, check out his stuff online. Amazing.
Read his book called Infinite Self. It's his opus, very simple, 33 steps of spiritual awakening, if you will, steps beyond this earth plane. And it's the essence of all, if you will, modern spiritual teachings is in there. Very, very powerful book. But he was a very profound mentor to mine since my early 20s until he passed a few years back. And he was a mentor to Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and a lot of other luminaries. And so I met Wayne through Stuart Weil. I just ended up at a Stuart Weil talk in Vancouver, a Wayne Dyer talk in Vancouver years back. I was invited as a guest and all of that, my team. So we were there. And my mentor, Stuart Weil, notices me that he just showed up.
As they do. These wizardy warrior sage people, it's like they're in the right place at the right time. They go,
Here's my teammate comes up to me and goes, Stuart Weil's here. I'm like, what? My teacher in Vancouver? What's he doing? He says, come, and he whispered me, and he pulled me over. So we got to hang with Wayne weighing myself through a while. It was a very special moment.
This isn't one of our normal questions, but I've been really thinking about this in the last 6 months, especially, where there's this real craving need crying out for like people that need help and want help. And I get people to help themselves. There's hours of Stuart's content on YouTube. There's hours of your there's so much great content. And yet there seems to be this disconnect between the teachers, the teachings, what could be done globally. And maybe that's how it's supposed to be, right? No, we can't fix the game and complete it. And at the same time, it feels like there's my 20-year-old self is wishing I'd come across these things as opposed to
Yes.
having had the journey I had. I'm grateful for my 20-year journey. I wouldn't want to have it again. So I'm just curious, like, why is this sort of, I don't know, you have the question I'm asking behind the
I
question I'm
understand what you're
asking.
saying.
Yeah.
Books, online content, teachings, these are all super valuable to grow consciousness. And, I immerse myself in books and teachings all the time, every day, like yourself and many others. The distinction between that and true mentorship is one is you're learning to read and receive the, if you will, condensed and dialed in teachings of whoever wrote these books. So you get the essence of it. The difference is when you meet them in person, or whether online or in person, and go out of your way. What happens is you get a transmission of being that touches one at a soul level that starts to evolve one's being far beyond anything that can be done through written or audio or video format. And so I'm one for the old school path of mentorship, finding mentors that can see the blind spots and you can support you, challenge you, love you into your fullness and into the extent of your full being, to the fullness of your expression. And, they might be able to be a little firm on you at times and loving at times, but it's always in the context of, wow, here's this being that wishes to evolve. So, when I read as a youngster, Think and Grow Rich, and I heard Napoleon Hill would travel all the way around the world and to meet other mentors and to learn from them directly, I set out on that path too. My children have been raised like that, where wherever they have, desire of learning, they find the mentors in those areas. And, when you're approaching a mentor, you got to go in with a total level of humility and willingness to do whatever the heck they tell you to do. A lot of it sounds counterintuitive.
There's two questions I've been bubbling to ask, and it's a bit deeper than we'd normally go, but I think we're friendly elder brothers in the journey. Is that okay with
That's,
you? You can see
that's
my face for those on radio here. We're got the cameras on today. So the first question is not meant to burst the bubble, but you and I think of, we've got the masks off a bit in this conversation. There are people out there with great mentoring programs. They're not all there's meant to be. Like, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but the old mentor, there was a different dynamic to it, right? As opposed to just, it's a 12-month mentoring program and pay this budget and join that thing. It's not negating. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong here. I'm just curious, how does somebody who doesn't know discover who's a useful mentor? Like, it's all great experiences, but how do they sift and sort?
yes.
If they haven't had that initial start with the great family training in it or background in it, how do you avoid the nightmare stories people do end up in the industry?
That's a great question. Well, you see, discernment is a huge factor here. And yes, there are teachers and guides and coaches who put together, exact programs and articulated
And
programs.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, it's great
I think
to
it's
have that.
it's a very valuable way to have an exact formatted way to transmit and to share your offerings and your work in the world.
And the bit you said very clearly is the mentor says, do jump, and you jump because that's the relationship,
That's right.
But it can set up some other challenges. I'm sort of saying it lightly.
There's another level of mentorship, which is a discipleship, a mentorship in it, like in the old ways, like a kung fu master with their student. And, I have a beautiful relationship with many of my students that, going back 30 years, young fellows, men and women who've now become, I raised since young to become black belts in their 20s and 30s and were with me for some of them 2 decades. And we're family. So a mentor, the highest level of mentorship is like an uncle, like an auntie, like someone who has that family feeling. And they're not just there for a prescribed period of time or for the beginning or an end of a contract or a program. Those are all great. A mentor is someone who cares about your whole life. They care about not just your business development. They care about the equilibrium that you're holding in your whole being, your family life, your faith, your connection to spirit, your vitality, your being, your finances, and your business intentions. And someone who can hold the full spectrum of the life dance and then just like an old Chinese master or acupuncturist, one little touch, just put your attention on this. And the whole dynamic uplifts for the better because they were able to see an area where if you just touch that, bring a little bit more presence, attention, care, deal with something that perhaps you haven't been, then all of a sudden everything improves. That's the mastery of an artistry and why one should seek out mentors, knowing that they got all their flavors and their personality quirks and they've got all their ups and downs, but you go to them for the specialty they have. And when they're offering it to you, drink from it like a thirsty, dry, parched person in the desert who's coming to the well of wisdom.
I love it. We're going to move on, but I think there's future conversations to have. This is the stuff. And this is what I love. You brought up Napoleon Hill and these people. I've spent 20 years not knowing I was on the journey I was doing to find wisdom keepers and nudge them. And then the irony, and you'll get this, once you're good at one thing, you can sort of quickly learn other things as well, right? So you can sort of it sort of speeds up. It isn't a linear progression, but it's also, you can't spend 20 years studying one thing in Japan and 20 years in Peru. You can't do completely separate strands, and they are very unique subtleties there. So let's get into the meat a little bit. If you think about one of the most challenging moments where you had to pause, stop, reset, don't need to go into depth into what it was, but what helped you to navigate it? And that can be a bad thing that happened, or it could be good things that happen. Sometimes, winning a lottery, getting triplets is actually a great thing, but it's still a reset. I'm just curious what helped you navigate those moments when you had to pause, stop, and reset.
I'm very blessed to have my wife, Suzanne, 33 years now. And again, I very much trust her feminine wisdom to help me stay and to up-level my alignment. So when I'm in these periods where, okay, it's time to slow down, right now I'm slowing down quite a few different gears in my life. We had the focus of putting out our books. I had 3 books that really got released in the last few months. And we took our time completing those. They're out now, released. Now that's released, I have a lot of support, people going, okay, let's get those books out, let's spread them, all of that, which makes all sense. It's all valuable. It's what a marketer, it's what a business guide should tell you. But what about the deeper voice? So my deeper voice says, you know what? I'm just going to sit with this. I just gift my books to those who I feel might have gained good value. I gift my books to those who are in business leadership positions and leadership positions on the planet. And I realized from my meditation, I don't need to make any money. I don't need to break even. I don't need to try to make anything from these books. They're just the offering of my soul's experience, my life experience for the greater good. And having the freedom not to do anything with them other than just to share them has opened up such a rich space. So your question, I can answer it by saying, I ask myself what's mine not to do, what's not to do now, and what is to do now. And I trust that inner voice. And it tends to be there's always less to do that my mind says, but there are certain things to do that my soul says to do. But then when I do those, I minimize all the other stuff, distractions, and I put the potency of my intention down 1 or 2 paths. And that always ends up blooming and flourishing some potential.
If you're listening in, this is what I call Shibumi, the state of flow that a Go master's in when they're playing Go intro, that little nudge. But I also, when I sort of draw out there, Suzanne, thank you for letting us have Satyen for tonight's call and the team around you. And I get that it's not a solo journey, right? It's sort of this self-made man isn't how we get to where we are today.
There's no such thing. It's an illusion. We are one and we are all. We're not separate from any other being. We're not separate from our teams. There is no shut off from unity consciousness. No. There's only denial of it.
Beautifully said. We're going to sort of get into the final phases, and you've got another thing to go to, and time is infinite and short sometimes, but I'm enjoying this, and we'll get to how you can find out more and later on in the show. If anybody's listening in today, and often people are listeners, they're looking to make shift. That's what they're here for, right? Not just sort of nothing in the background. That's some of the call in their soul, consciously or otherwise, to make a shift. What are your top recommendations if somebody's looking to go, you know what, I want to make a reset? What would be your top suggestions for everything you've been around? Or let's say one of your friends comes and says, I need to change things around. What would you have them go do?
The first thing I always start off with is a retreat. In the Book of Changes, the book of philosophy in the I Ching, it says the superior man and woman, they retreat from the field of war to reassess their own selves and their strategy and where they stand. So to me, a retreat is not a passive, I need to get away, a vacation. A retreat, it could be in a yurt in my backyard. It could be going into camping, into what I'm doing next week with my family. It could be to literally go on a personal meditation retreat. It's something that I highly recommend, is to do enlightenment intensives, meditation retreats, deep dive retreats with mentors and such. But the retreat allows us to defragment ourselves from the momentum of doing that we've been immersed in. So as we pull away, we're able to reassess what are all the strands that continue to move forward? What are the waves of moving forward? We can see and step away from a healthy disposition, from an observer disposition, all the areas of life. Some that need to let go, some that need attention. So retreat is very valuable. It's also very valuable to nurture the body, one's mind, with good food, good water, good air, nature. For me, retreating in nature is the ultimate reset, the ultimate. Nothing can beat it. You can go to spas, you can go to high-end hotels, you can go on extravagant vacations, all beautiful, all worthwhile, all awesome. But a retreat into nature is where we get to hear the soul's voice reemerge, and we get to hear the fullness of its expression. And it transcends the words of the mind and becomes a body knowing. And that knowing can lead us into our greatest destiny.
I love that. And I know I've found, especially the last 6 months, going out into nature, spending 2-3 hours away from the normal world. And ironically, sometimes 5 minutes from where you are, you find little paths and lakes you'd never know. And
That's right.
a different sense of this sort of world we live in, this connection that opens up in that.
And the other form of retreat is meditation, retreating our senses from all the obscurations and all the entanglements of the world and going within. I find with all my beloved mentees, I always teach them different forms and ways of meditating in a way that aren't numbing themselves from the world, but attuning themselves to their innermost. And that is the inner way of resetting, which I think is really valuable, especially for business leaders nowadays, especially.
It was my unfair advantage being on a trading. I worked in banking for 10 years and, the trading floors are crazy busy and I was quite chilled out most of the time. Now you still get into that. You can flick an act and, from your Kung Fu days, I was writing earlier about the mother tiger running down the mountainside protecting her cubs. She's relaxed, but she's also really focused. But the next minute she's shaking it off again. And so much the brain, the monkey mind keeps chattering and chattering away. Is there sort of a easy beginner approach? I know there's no such thing really, but are you sort of a big fan of walking meditation, of mantras, of box breath or TM? What's your sort of go-to?
People ask me, what's the best meditation for me? And I say it's the one you're going to do.
Exactly.
Change it around. Just sitting there and watching your breath is enough.
Funny enough, my friend.
My meditation is I surrender to God.
I like that.
So I sit in a room, I connect with the essence of divinity, and I say, God, I offer my mind, my body, my emotions to you during this time. And I allow whatever thoughts, feelings, whatever's coming in, rather than suppress them or try to silence my mind, I let them all arise and I give them to spirit. I offer them as a surrender. And after a few minutes, all that starts to settle down, the noise of the mind. And then after about 20, 30 minutes, there's just depth of silence. But not only depth of silence, there's a feeling of interconnectedness with spirit. And that to me is the ultimate rejuvenation of being, is tapping into the source that transcends the matrix that we're in.
Ooh, I love that. There is more depth to you than people realize, I think. And I get that at the start of the call. I try to interact with you online and there's like another sort of, ooh. And he is just pointing at what's in the wisdom closet, I think. If somebody's listening, thinking 30 days from now, right? They're at the water cooler. If there was an office, what's the one takeaway, wish they, if nothing else from today, they go, you know what? I heard him talking. That was my takeaway. What's the thing you most wish people were left with from today?
To value your being as much as you value all the stuff that you do. In fact, to shift the value from all the things you do, to come back and start valuing just being who you are without the need for accomplishment, going anywhere, going nowhere, trying to find love, trying to find fulfillment, trying to find freedom, just really finding yourself and making that the priority of life. To me, I would invite everyone to love yourself into being.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah. And if you're finding yourself going, I'm not sure what we mean by that, listen back to this. Just be open to things opening up, because this ontology, this nature of being is such the the hidden layer of life, I think. And it is the juice, it's the fun bits, and it can slip away without you realizing sometimes. So we are nearing the end of the show today, sadly. From what you've heard us asking you, are there any guests that you know you'd love to hear what they had to say, or you know that would add massive value to our listeners?
There's a gentleman that I really admire named Ricardo Semler. I think he's retired now. I'm not sure if he is CEO of a Brazilian company. He has TED Talks, Semler, Ricardo Semler, a man of great wisdom, consciousness, an extraordinary business leader, now working to improve the education for our youth. That's one man I highly recommend, not just for what he's saying, but the transmission of his being when he speaks.
I'm smiling going, I wouldn't be worthy. And that's ironic given the conversation. That's a huge person, not because of what he did, but actually the shift he made in Brazil and globally to business.
Yes.
If you don't know his work, we'll put the links in the portal. But yeah, amazing recommendation there. And this is what I love about the show. You never know what you're going to share, right? Sort of the little weird nuggets that come out and the dots that connect. And maybe one day you'd be so kind and you could interview him for me. I'm delegating like a sneak lazy panda that I am. And we're going to get to the fun bit now. Obviously, your website is warriorsage.com. People are going to want to connect with you, learn more about you and what you're up to. Is that the best way they can reach out to your world?
Yeah, go to warriorsage.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Satyen Raja. Go to warriorsage.com. You can be on our email list. There's complimentary programs and video programs when you sign up to be on our list. There's, about 20 of my vintage programs, all on audio and video, all available for free for anyone to download. And we've created 3 activations: power, relationship, and money activations, 1-day workshops that anyone can download for free, absolutely, and practice the teachings, practice cultivations, step-by-step exercises that we've made it so these sharings of giving can be really embodied and switched on inside yourself. All of that is absolutely available, complimentary, at warriorsage.com. And if there's folks inquiring about actually doing, a retreat, deep dive retreats that I hold, you can find out about it there and inquire about it.
And I'm quite sneaky, so I have some plans ahead with things like Read This, Change Your Life. So I've been looking not for like amazing books that nobody knows about, but just the books people should read and why and how. So we have a whole plan to make it easy for you to get connected more and more. And I love that I didn't know you had 3 books out. I missed that bit. This is also the catch in the modern world. Right? I'm sort of not stalking, but following you online in that Facebook friends world. I didn't know we had 3. What are the 3 new book titles?
So, I have my art table book called The Path of the Warrior Sage.
Beautiful.
And I don't have that in front of me, but I do have this new set that my wonderful team helped create. It's called Transcendent CEO and Transcendent Culture.
Yep.
Transcendent CEO is like an oracle for business leaders. You can open it anywhere to gain insight and wisdom. And this one, Transcendent Culture, is how to lead extraordinary teams to make, a great impact and have deep coherence and connection and camaraderie. So those are available on the site. And I believe every business owner can find true pragmatic value in those.
Oh, I've had a lot of fun. We are wrapping up to 45 minutes here. This was the one and only Satyen Raja. Obviously, I really appreciate you being here, and hopefully we're going to get to break bread in the UK or around the world sometime in the future. Personally, I really love that you brought up Stuart Wilde. You brought up these people that I've come to know over the last decades, but no one really knows about. And I think there's a great time coming. My friend Ernesto talks about the children mentoring the adults, and there's a different switch around coming where what used to be hidden knowledge in the mystery schools, right, had to go out to the mountains to learn. There are great people like you that are bringing these things together very humbly, very openly, very friendly, and it doesn't have to be hard. So if you are out there, that reminder that you are valuable, that you do belong, and go check out Warrior Sage, check out what we're doing for you in the portal to make it easy for you, and put the links in there. And there's a whole portal behind Pulse.Reset, Satyen, where we sort of make it easy to go to find what you're up to. Does that make sense? So with the podcast, that'll be there now. There'll be other podcasts coming up. Make sure you get the updates. Go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and please share a comment on what you heard from Satyen today that you liked, it inspired you to take some action on. I know you've done training before. It's that action step. Even if it isn't public in your journal, make a note, share something, and you never know the ripples are going to end. Satyen, anything you want to say to wrap up the show?
Well, I'm just grateful for your wonderful, deep, and penetrating questions today, which are sourced in giving value to your beloved listeners and everyone dialing in. And my heart goes out to everyone here. I know these are very interesting times that we're in. And stay the course. Discover who you are, ground in who you are, stay the course. We're all going to arise together through this better, stronger, wiser, and deeper.
I love that. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you.
You've just heard a great podcast. Want to start your own? Email Jason at apodcastcompany.com.